Awesome.
Right.
People like me, I'd be like riding my bike and I see
I used to bike in Albany, not all the time, but every once in a while. It was fun. It was good because when it was all downhill. It's a little bit different, but that's okay. So then I have to be. All uphill.
I was like flat, don't go, so it's very easy to.
Yeah, I know, really.
Sorry to interrupt conversation, but we're ready to get started. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Call the meeting of the Wayne County Industrial Development Agency to order. So I need a motion to approve the April 23rd meeting minutes. Any second?
Second.
Amanda, any discussion? Yeah, all in favor? Opposed?
Yes, Mark gonna abstain because I wasn't in this meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so number 3 on the agenda is authorizing resolution for the Brightside O8 LLC and the OptiPro Systems LLC pilot project. I'll turn it over.
Okay, so I'm Mike Betzel, now CEO of Sun is now president. Has been. And our business has been growing. We added in 2019 we put a 15,000 square foot addition on it, which was phase 1 of the project. It was pre-approved. It was approved by the town of Ontario. That had 2 phases, phase 1 and phase 2. We typically, as we grow, we try not to add too much cost and too much space. Add what we think we're going to need over, 5-year, 10-year period. Hope it's that much. Some of the new things that we've gotten involved in the past 5 years has been automation, adding robots to machines for tending people that are difficult finding employees to do that kind of work. Doing some process work that is tedious to humans, like downloading buttons. So coming up with new products like that have created some really nice opportunities for us to grow, but it's also created a requirement for some more space. And right now currently we have to leave some of our machine bases and stuff at Boulder rigging because we don't have the space to put in the facility. It creates it doesn't allow us. It basically creates inefficiencies. We had the bases there. Our employees, if we were waiting to do something, they could do some work on those bases. So it's that opportunity and need, but it's also OptiPro since 2004 has been working with NavAir, especially NavAir, and development of small business innovation research grants for advanced missile domes and director optics, which are the optics behind the domes, developing the processes for the equipment, not just the processes, but and in so doing, we've also worked with which companies that would participate. So it wasn't just OptiPro doing that development, but it was also communicated with NavAir's personnel, but also with prime contractors, Lockheed, especially what their goals were. In 2004, it was visionary. I'll say it wasn't really a program or anything, but that's now changed. So the things that we were working on back in 2004, 20 years later, are now something that is a real need for. So we've been working on developing those things. Unfortunately, Dan Harris, who was the TPOC, a technical point of contact for our contracts, was I'll say visionary in knowing that this was gonna be the need. And that it wasn't, it was a need without a solution. So we needed new technologies and new capabilities with this equipment to be able to make those components. So, you know, fast forward to where we are now today through a lot of continued research grants with the federal government, a lot of internal, and research and development. We've been successful in some additional contracts with Raytheon and Lockheed Martin, been able to get to a place where we're now able to produce those and getting contracts. So it's creating, and we made it clear to them that we wanted to be a provider of those components, not just sell the equipment. Normally, a lot of OptiPros and equipment manufacturers, so we sell most of the machines that we develop, we sell to the precision optics industry throughout the United States. So an easy one to think about is Optimax. They're right next door to us. And they have probably 40 of our optical printing machines. And many companies in Rochester alone, Rochester Precision Optics and JML, Thor Labs, and on and on. So, but also same thing throughout the country, those small to medium sized precision optics manufacturers in the United States. And that's really where I'll say 95% of our equipment is sold. But another opportunity that has happened is actually our biggest competitor came to us a couple of years ago. It's a German company. We have 3 German competitors, Satislow, Optotech, and Schneider. And they, and the larger of those is a company called Satislow. And they came to us a couple of years back and asked if there was some way they could work with us. And their intentions were working different than where we landed. Because of the work we do, we weren't up for sale. We can't, the work that we do for our government is not something that's outside our control. Our team is very committed to that. So that was not an option. But what did become an option was for them to represent some of our products internationally, which we struggle with. We're small and, we're not selling pots and pans. You can ship them and not have to worry about it. We're selling precision, complex equipment that needs service, that needs support, that needs application. So we realized that it made sense for us to, we had sold some machines internationally, and it was always with the understanding with the customer that we can't be there tomorrow. It's in Japan or the Czech Republic. It's going to take us time to get there. So this gives us an opportunity to, also increase our machine sales because we've got international distribution, and we both agreed that this was going to take time. In fact, it kind of shocked the industry because two of the bigger companies competing in that world combining was not something that was on anyone's radar except for ours. And so we think it's a good partnership. We compete in the U.S. market. They're good people, and there's some good opportunities there. So that's another opportunity. So we've got all of those pieces, and the primes, as going back to the advanced work that we're doing for the primes and for the federal government, we needed more space, and it was important to them. When they would visit us, we've got one area we call AMP, and that's our advanced material processing area. And that's really tight. It's really packed in. And we've got more machines being built right now to go into that area, and there's no room. So we didn't know for sure some of those things. We didn't know, a year or two ago, whether this stuff was really going to happen. It has, and it is. And we're glad that we had put the ball in motion, and it was a team decision. I'm 70 years old now, and I want to have our team, our young people making decisions and participating in it. So I'm trying not to act like a king and like a partner with these guys. And they're very responsible, and You know, there was a lot of discussions about whether it was the right thing to do, but in the end, you know, it's interesting because I would say even back in January, we still were questioning it. Now it's like, we need this building now. So, you know, so it's gonna give us opportunities for doing the AMP work, but also an opportunity for a lot of efficiencies. So I'll stop here. You know, we're a company of about 100 people at our site. One site, we also own a small business. We bought a small business down the street, which was called Avalanche at the time. I didn't like the name Avalanche because really nothing good typically comes out of avalanches. So I changed the name to Peak. So it's now Peak Fabrications, and they do a lot of our sheet metal developments. So there's room to grow there. We have additional acreage of land above the building and the property there. So we have opportunity to, if we did need more space, we got room right down the street. Which is nice. Okay. And they're about 15.
So it's roughly 15,000, excuse me, 16,000 square foot.
Yeah,
Addition.
yeah, 16,000.
$1.5 million total project cost.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, the building itself isn't that much, but the infrastructure is, it's an estimate with the HVAC and lighting, we're hopefully we'll come in under that. But I am the eternal optimist when it comes to what things cost. So our team is now very, and again, it's the right thing to do, but much more fiscally responsible. You know, I have to admit my weaknesses, and I'm way more interested in technology than financial stuff, which isn't really the greatest way to be, but kind of it did get us to where we are at some level. We've been successful in spite of that. Now we've got a really good focused financial team, and my son is much better than myself in really focusing on that, the details. So I think, you know, we'll be in a better place because of that.
We had a public hearing last week on the 21st at the town of Ontario. Had both Rob Bethel and Kelly attend from the pro, and we only had one person from the public, that was the town assessor. And we had no public comments at the public hearing. Does anyone have any questions?
No, I'd just like to thank you for your continued choosing Wayne County to grow your business.
Sure.
All this time.
It's been
It's a great success story.
Yeah. I was one of the founders of Optic also. When we moved back on the Parkway, there was us and Optic across the street from each other. That we had our buildings building the company at the time. Yeah, that was basically a farm. Fields, I should say, just fields now. Now it's pretty much. Yeah. Yeah, and there's two other optics companies, not just optics, but very other optics. They don't make optics, but they're doing a lot of optics.
Resolution?
Sure.
Anyone, if not, anyone have any other questions?
Just make a motion to.
Yeah.
We can make a motion to accept resolution number 5-05-2/2024 for the expansion to optical.
Second.
In favor?
Okay.
Opposed?
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
This is the first time in my tenure we've ever voted with the customer in the room, so. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's a good. I didn't
You
know
walked
it.
out knowing what
Glad to
happened.
be here and explain to you what we're doing. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Yes, I did the shoes.
I'll
Okay,
jump in on the next one. I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
interrupt you there. So the next resolution is an authorization to commit funds for a grant application. Past year, we completed our countywide business park analysis that intended to lead us to a path of making improvements at areas of the county to be, if you will, more quote unquote shovel ready. So one of the things that came out of that analysis, and frankly, that comes up very frequently, is the need to do an evaluation of our water and wastewater capacity. It's a big question mark that comes up every time we're looking at citing projects in the county. Capacity is what the demand is. I'm starting to think about water as similar to energy, frankly, it is, we used to look at 1 megawatt projects is large, now they're 5 to 20. Water's really the same way. We have a lot of demand for not only water, but sewer capacity in particular. So the county, through the county funded budget line items that help fund some of the work we do here, the IDA provides for line item that we call project planning fund, it's $165,000 a year. And process involves resolution from this board requesting and authorizing the use of those funds for this project. It would be complete study of the water wastewater capacity in the county, identifying pinch points, and then really looking at the capacity of those contingent on demand increases in usage. But again, it's really about being prepared for attraction projects.
Brian, who would actually perform the work of the study?
We would issue an RFP and hire an engineering firm. I'm very much thinking of the next step towards, building up that business park analysis. Fast New York is a state's shovel ready grant program. Just went through their first round of funding. They have 3 tracks.
Yes.
Track B is for studies. Track C, or the third track, is about funding improvements. So this very well could lead to, shovels in the ground and capital infrastructure. But I run this through Marty, the water authority, thought this was a great idea. And a lot of times we're stuck with company XYZ is looking at this site and they're wondering if they can provide X number of gallons of sewer water capacity, and then we turn around and ask the water authority, and then they're like, oh, I don't know, I gotta check, and they go to local folks, and it just gets a little, we need to be more refined here on this.
And
So this would be an all about end report that this is where we can do this type of stuff. We wouldn't have to go to the water authority anymore. This would be our official report.
Yeah, I mean, this is like energy, this is, things change on the ground, and the project come online that's using the water. It's about establishing a baseline, so to speak, but also a game plan to sort of say, hey, if we're really serious.
It's not just the water. You got private entities. Town of Vincent, town of Ontario, those you look at.
Yeah.
Yes, some have their own, right? Yeah.
It's a little fragmented, I mean, that's fine, but really, working with across the, not just.
But they would work with them, right? I mean, the process of pulling this together would be to work with those entities.
You should.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right?
Okay.
So, yeah.
And it would be cover the whole county?
Yep,
It would more focus on the business parks, not every type of water and sewer. So it would be focused on the business parks we identified in your business.
how do we get the appropriate service to the areas where we're identifying our target? That's it. Also, as a side note, taking that same business park analysis and talking to the utility companies as well on capacity, how to get power and stuff there. They have internal information and we get this project requests and it's fragmented, it drags out a little bit, and I think in order to be more competitive, even as a region, we need to get more available information. That is, if we landed a large barrel like they have massive water demand. Right, the state stepped up and gave the town of Webster a $20 million check to improve their wastewater plant. understanding, it's not about building the plan and then they'll build it and they will come. It's about knowing what we need to do to accommodate that.
Brand, would this also include the Butler facility as well? I mean, is this a potential business park, so to speak?
No. At least my thought process on Butler, I mean, we're looking at it this as the one end user or one owner, could be multiple users, but we would not be, timeline wise, we wouldn't be done with this anywhere near soon enough for it to help inform anything. At least that's not to say that the end user of the facility might need improvements to that
So I
site.
just thought as far as the blending of resources, there's probably more water and sewer capacity right there because of its location than a lot of other places in the county.
For flushing toilets and washing hands, sure. I think for process, food and beverage companies or something like that would use a lot more than maybe is available. Say today. Honestly, couldn't say. It's part of the reason why.
Well, exactly, that's why I threw it out there, because
Yeah.
when that came offline, basically the capacity of the processing plant out there was only 30%.
Yeah, they talk about the wastewater stuff.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
Okay.
We've done, had a lot of discussions about it, water authority. owns it.
Yeah,
So, yeah, we finally determined that, so it'll help with that product. It's. Yeah. I
In any case, this is asking the board to approve. So by the way, the project cost is an estimate, right? We won't know until we in our RFP on the street, we get cost proposals back. Might be being a little generous here, but the work that we've been doing lately, nitty gritty, hardcore engineering detail stuff is cheap. That's what I'm looking for here. It's really a lot of smart people working on health engineering stuff that can detail we need. Make sense? Part of the plan?
Okay, so we need a motion to put the resolution forward authorizing the application in planning funds for Wayne County Fast New York Shovel Ready grant application.
Second,
Any discussion?
just discussion that, I've been on this board for a while and we did a similar project with fiber cable. It's been a while, but I don't have a good sense of are we using the data?
Oh, yeah, well, we're under contract with Spectrum on the broadband stuff. We use that to move towards implementation of a project. It's over 1,100 broadband serviceable locations.
So I think if there's just some way to connect back to us once we have the study, so that we just have a good awareness of the value of the money spent, what it provides to us.
To your point, that study really got us in a good position with issuing the RFP and understanding the scope of the broadband. Right. That was 8 years ago, 7 years ago, give or take. These things take time. I mean, but yeah. Well, one. Just kind of started at a high level, right? That business park analysis, and then getting a little more defined here, and I'm in particular about making sure that at least trying to make sure that one, not just doing planning studies, but like the housing studies an example as well. But doing the study, getting more refined, identifying areas that need a closer look, and then making sure that we're working towards implementation, which is.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, carried. Number 5.
Kind of in the same vein, so, smart growth. It's something about staff, I hope we could say it's something I've been talking about a lot, probably since everyone's been here, but. Ag and farmland protection plan, housing study, business park analysis, water, wastewater infrastructure, pulling these threads together. Helping create the basis for strategy for the county and for its municipalities is what this is all about. So same source of funding, if you will. But this is what I'm calling a smart growth strategic plan. you guys are probably familiar with the term comprehensive plan or comprehensive planning, very local, tends to be sort of the basis for land use decision making. Effectively changes to zoning code or changes of zoning for a particular property. Very local, right? Both New York State's home rule, very decision making, working on an economic development strategy and a farmland protection plan. The balance between the two of those competing efforts, and that we don't know what it's about. Not, these aren't competing, running head sort of initiatives. We can do both. And that's what this study would be. Actually helping pull the threads together, helping inform decision makers, both at the county level and at the local level on. Here's the direction we're going, here's what we're recommending. I think we're fine. The role, not only planning, but planning together. On other county.
How would you see this board being involved in that process?
The board itself. From the public meetings, we'll inform you along the way on the process and the selection of the consultant, development of the scope of work. I mean, frankly, as much as any of you guys want to be involved, I was involved. It's to me, it's I want to call it a culmination, but again, we kind of. Again, I also don't want to call them one-offs, right? The housing, all these things are strategic in a way, we kind of piecing together a plan, elements of a plan, pulling them all together, consolidating and finding the synergies between Department of Protection Plan, water, wastewater are a big part of that. And other part classes, inventory, all those other things. To me, makes a lot of sense. I think would help, not regularly, but over the course of the years, I've asked other folks in the county, other county departments, and you might add anything. Where's the county's comprehensive plan? So, plans are living documents, you know, nothing's ever static and done, if you will, but providing the basis for county and local planning and economic growth and farmland protection, all those other things is what we're about. So the Regional Economic Development Council funding round, which is open 3 weeks ago. Their State Department of State is providing a program. Counties are eligible applicants to fund these types of studies, among other things, local comprehensive plan updates. Seemed like a good time. They tweaked their program this year. So it's a little different, kind of opened it up for county level stuff. And again, given what we've done, that's let's say 4 or 5 years. I think it makes sense to move into this space. And it's really about a partnership between the county, the economic development officer, IDA, if you will, our planning department, and all the other departments. How we form, not just county level stuff.
This is, that kind of strikes me as that, it's great to put together a strategic plan, but it's gonna take a tremendous amount of energy and effort to bring this plan from this level to the towns, to the town boards, to the planning and zoning boards. So
I agree.
Yeah.
So finally fully
that
staffed the
would
planning
require a
department.
commitment
Mhm.
on
But
your
you-
part.
You also have towns that don't even have land use. Some of the towns, believe it or not, still don't have.
So then, but this would incorporate
Oh,
the
which
town.
towns are built?
No.
It's not, my point to saying that is to do it, or be, I'm thinking kind of the other way. If the county puts this together, then those towns can use that as their rubber stamp or whatever for them.
At least that's the basis
Yeah.
for it.
Makes sense.
We have 2 planning positions in the planning side of our office. Staffed or understaffed for a little while here, but Luke is our associate planner's job title, but he's really my planning guy. As far as comp plan, he's attending, Rose and Palmyra combined village and town are doing comp plan updates as we speak. He's attending on our behalf. Katie and Luke and I, we've worked on sort of initial local profiles of municipalities, so pulling data. It's going to be a regular part of what we're doing. So not just looking at the data, but evaluating changes over time. So really want to get out of our planning staff and then up from this and do this kind of constant cyclical thing. But at the end of the day, county planning is about informing local decision making. It absolutely plays in economic development. I can tell quite a few supervisors. We need industrial zoning that isn't contingent on a special permit. That kind of plays into business attraction, other things like that. Wellington. No.
Walworth.
Walworth, I'm sorry, Walworth, that's the only industrial property in Walworth is. It's not exactly an attractive place for.
That's a big hole in the ground.
Yeah, I don't know how you would build a building there, but you know, Walworth's interested in. that.
Waterfront properties, do they?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, Walworth.
Oh,
In any case, you can eat right, so you know. We want growth, but we're interested in protecting farmland. Okay, how and where are we doing it? How are we planning infrastructure? The water study comes into play. Are we building new water infrastructure, right? That makes sense to. We should think about the capacity and potential demand for an industrial project here. If we have all this stuff lined up. Then we're out there working with GREs and everybody else, and hey, here's an attraction project they need. You know, 20 acres and $500,000 or $1 million or $2 million gallons of water capacity over. We can put a site on the table. We've got detail,
like the water from Walworth.
yeah, well, I don't, that's why I need the engineers, right? I don't know how and I mean, the large sewer project on the west side is gonna be a big part, I think. Our abilities to work on the west side. But again, it's that land use stuff, it's companies don't, special permit is kind of a non-starter. Talking to companies that track the attraction site, they wanna know, I go through all this site engineering and all this other stuff and potential office or property that got a clear path to getting permitted. Lining things up, involving the community as well, by the way. The smart grid project would actually involve. Community input type stuff. Shredding.
Is it budgeted, Brian?
This would be part of the same county funded line item.
So it is budgeted.
Okay, I get a motion to authorize planning funds for Wayne County for smart growth community planning and zoning grant program.
I make a motion.
In second. Yeah. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay.
I don't know, we'll have to see.
My back's to the microphone. I can talk louder, but I don't wanna. Next up.
Number 6, authorizing engagement letter for attorney services.
You want me to read?
No.
Okay. If you want.
Well, we discussed this at our last board meeting, you had reported asked for a revision from. The speech, he's associated with our. with Palm Island transaction.
And it's highlighted in the.
I think we should have a resolution for Morel and a separate resolution for Paris Beach,
Not combined.
not combined.
Okay, all right, we can do that at the table. Everyone had a chance to review the letter? Other questions?
On the first paragraph in Paris Beach's letter, where it says, I am sending this letter as a follow-up to a recent agency board discussion and our conversations for the purpose of providing a framework for and memorialize the agency. What does he mean by memorialize the agency? What does that word mean in the sentence?
Pretty sure, well, I don't want. The formality of the engagement in the letter itself. As opposed to how we, I think effectively, doing this, if you all stands up formal agreement or the actual executed engagement.
that a fair interpretation of?
Yeah, I think he left out a word or two, I think he meant put everything in writing.
Yeah,
That's
kind
very
of put cast it in stone, so to speak,
Right.
something to refer back to.
And it's just a little further down in the same paragraph, to provide IDA and LDC compliance, what is LDC?
Local Development Corporation, that's what WBDC is, and CLDC.
So the fact that Harris Beach represents over 100 IDA and LDCs, even though there's only 62 counties in the state, there's more than one IDA in a
We
particular
have
county.
two, right? Well, three.
Albany County has like 4 IDAs. Like Albany County, Bethlehem. I think Gilderland County has one, Albany has one, so some of them have a lot. More than we do.
Maybe too many. Huh?
Yeah, maybe too many. Yeah.
Julie, not with any disrespect, but I think the only reason why we would need separate resolutions if there's an intent to not accept any of the letters.
One I wanted to do a little more research on. I don't have a problem with Morales letter dated April 4th. But your speech is dated May 2nd, is quite lengthy. And it feels like the verbiage of this letter is, it's already a done deal, and maybe I'm even wasting my breath. Because he's using everything as a, accept my thanks for the continued opportunity. So it's as if this is already a done deal. When we have concerns about, you know, some of these things, and even looking at his signature, and do I even know, I mean, he's very careful to put your title in his letter, but he doesn't put his own. Is he a partner, paralegal, or assistant? I mean,
I
what
just
level
spoke,
is he at?
he's a partner.
There's nothing on the letter to indicate that at all. John is up in the letterhead, it's pretty obvious from his that there's two partners in his firm. John, correct? Not correct?
I'm the only partner in the other attorney work.
You know. It goes through some history of Harris Beach's representation, but to me, that's only suggesting that this fee business goes possibly deeper, much deeper. So I don't know, I guess it just leaves me with the length of this and the information in it, just leaves me with more questions. So that's my personal opinion.
What, there was not previously a cap on the hourly rate.
There was a range in the previous draft that sort of described.
But our prior arrangement did not have a cap.
There was no arrangement. Even though he alludes in this letter that this is an updated version, but you know.
I've never had one, but I think there seemed to be a recollection that there had been a process prior to me being here that involved one, but I have never seen an actual contract or engagement or anything relative to our services.
I think
Well,
we're
it's not
thinking
over
over
here.
I don't remember if we did one before or not.
Right, we asked for this change.
Yes, right, yeah, yes, that's my.
Right, so you'll notice like the highlighted paragraph is.
Yeah.
And where I think the change to the highlighted area is very good. It's still reaching the whole letter being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages long, leaves me with more questions.
Well, what are the questions, so we can get them clarified?
I apologize, I read this late last night
Okay.
and then I couldn't sleep. So
Okay.
I'll put the questions together for you in writing. Sure.
So is it appropriate if I make a motion that we approve the Morel resolution? And then pause on
You
it?
do have to have a resolution
We can, how do I say this?
table.
We can generally we can write the resolution at the table, record it in the minutes, and we'll write it up, if you will. So, I mean, if you can, there was a motion and a-
So moved from Morel, second.
Before you do that, just to kind of keep things static, why don't we make a motion to remove the air speech from the resolution, then you can use all the same information, right?
Right.
That makes sense, make it easier. So I'll make a motion to remove air speech from the resolution.
and approve it. And thank you. So you're gonna make a motion to remove our speech from the resolution.
Sure we do.
To,
Okay.
well, we can do it in steps or all. I
Let's
don't wanna put words in your mouth.
be efficient here. I'll make a motion to remove air speech and to approve the engagement letter with Morel.
And that's the second, I think, from Pam. Good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And then Julie, you'll get us your additional questions.
Absolutely.
Seven, performance measures report and analysis.
They're separate packet, and it kind of ties with IDA, EDC, and CFPC.
Also provided in your packet, I don't know if anyone had a chance to review, I know I'm gonna say we have. To performance measures that newly are responses to the performance measures. So I got. Resolution here, it is, you know, today, tomorrow, a week, a month, a year, whatever. And please, you know, feel free to take your time and review things, and if you have questions now, we do our best to try to answer them.
So I like the format, Brian, and I like the specifics. Yeah. If I were to add one thing, it would be, you know, as the goals are established, to actually outline, you know, it's kind of it's thinking smart goal format, actually identify what the goal is. Because this is very good, it gives us the results. But we don't necessarily always know. Is that, you know, did you want 10 of something and you got 8, or did you want 8 and you got 10?
Mhm. You know, this is a tough one for me, I'll be honest, I mean, some of these, if you look at the goal, you know, I'm on page. Just because it was. Page 5, I think, at the bottom, so it's that's a. Correct, this page here. So if you read the goal, advance property infrastructure improvements in the county to increase preparedness of the availability of shrubbery sites for the. Like. The number on that one. I mean, measure success there.
Well, yeah, I think it's identified, so sometimes when it's not a number, it's the what are you gonna do to do that? To be if then what does success look like on the other side? So maybe it's something like we just talked about and just approved. That we're gonna,
Mhm.
you know.
No, it is though, yeah, no, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
So policies and program measurements, policies and programs to advance properties and shelter-ready sites. Again, not a number, right? You know, 4 studies were completed. What are we doing? What makes sense relative to that?
Well, maybe there won't be targets for everything, because targets, I mean, largely just get us to develop priorities. So I mean, if you're not in the priority, and I don't, we're ISO certified, so I mean, it's just one of those things where they think everything should be measured with targets as well, and sometimes, like you're saying, it doesn't make sense. But maybe some of these things are priorities where it may put you in a position where if you don't hit your target, it's like, what are we gonna do about it? Or do we need to have a discussion about it?
Mhm,
Yeah.
Maybe it's irrelevant anymore.
mhm.
We talk about the whole fiber thing, like I was thinking about your fiber project several years ago. After COVID, it's pretty much history.
So I mean, it's like, then that information is like, maybe even with some of these planning pieces, there's like, well, how often are we gonna update them? Because it's something that, a lot of this data is a snapshot in time, it's, quickly irrelevant. In just a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, different things, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, snapshots in time are, I think, important data points, right? You know, and tracking trends and things like that. Some of them are, to your point on the fiber and broadband, it's like, you know, at some point will be done. Great trucks.
Well, look at Mike, I mean, he started his project in 2009. You know what I mean? It took years to see and build
Yeah,
up enough money to do what he's doing, so I think, yeah, and the snapshots in time, but it takes.
We're starting to get there, right? So, you know, some of these are, some of the data points here are starting in 21. Which effectively, started doing these standards. Specific, that's, and again, it's not just about the snapshot of time, it's about the trends, and you'll see some trending here. It's easy to do with the numbers. Right, you know, number of
Right.
pilots or number of loans and dollar amount of the loans invested and things like that. Some of the other stuff. Yeah, business attraction side, or, you know. Depends on the bulk or the measurement.
So Ryan, another way to look at this is KPIs, right? So you got your key performance indicators. So like in my past, I would always have maybe 5 at the most. And then all this other stuff would drive it. So I wouldn't, at Ken's point, have targets for everything, but I had very clear targets for those 3 to 5 pieces. And all this other stuff drove them. So when I managed my business, my KPIs were on cue and pretty much everything else. It's just another way to look at it.
Were there any areas after you put this all together where you thought maybe should have been better? Or was everything pretty well? Where you expected it to be?
I mean, I think workforce development is maybe that's a low hanging fruit, easy one to answer correctly, but it's an area that. We talk a lot about or involved with, so to speak, but. It's a bit fragmented, if you will, and it's a little difficult space for. Non-workforce development oriented agencies, if you will. To spend time and focus on. But it's absolutely important to do, and especially all of it, retention, expansion, attraction. Workforce comes into play in all of it, our ability to be able to point to the partners or resources available to companies, especially companies who aren't located around here, wouldn't know what a workforce investment board is. Much less what they have to provide. Sometimes we don't always know. That frankly is an area where I think we could get better. Maybe a little more coordination. The Department of Labor is building a new office in the Silverhill Business Park, which is pretty cool. Now we'll have a PTech school, Department of Labor, and community college co-located in a business park. How do we coordinate those research?
Yeah, and I think to piggyback back off of that, you know, there's workforce, but then there's also housing, and that people can find a place to live here. And our comprehensive plan with the housing plan really identified that, you know, when we have a decrease in population, and there's a need for more housing to help with that workforce development need. So those really go hand in hand. And again, another reason why that strategic smart growth plan is really important to create that connection. Because if we continue to decrease in population, it's going to be harder for us to attract businesses to our community. Although we have a great business park up in the town of Ontario, Bay Industrial Park, as we just mentioned, it's full. So where's the next step for that, or how can that business park grow? So I also see housing as a challenge as well, because we need to find that balance. You know, again, in the housing plan that identified that we do have rental housing, but we don't have enough. And if somebody's starting to either work someplace or, you know, settle in, sometimes they don't buy right away. So finding that sort of middle market rental place is also very important to our community.
And it's a trick, and I know we've had this discussion, and you put out some good, I guess areas for consideration, and really in anything where you've got metrics, it's you're gathering data to conduct analysis, and that's sort of what we should do through discussion. in whether it's the housing piece or the other correlations that exist. So, yeah, maybe in some cases targets don't make sense. It's just, well, how did this change from last year? And is it something that's a societal change? Whether it's like, yeah, you want to be qualified later, you don't have housing, like, and it's one of the reports that we look probably the hardest at is our HR retention report, and trying to understand why people come, and why people leave.
How much of this is us? How much of this is
Exactly.
what's going on in the world?
What do you see?
Well, it varies, like, and that's really where the analysis and discussion takes place, because if you deal with somebody who's like in their early 20s to maybe even mid-30s, they don't care about benefits. They're like, how many dollars are my paycheck? And they won't even take the leap to looking at, I'm not paying anything for health insurance. I don't factor that in my hourly rate, or I've got all these other benefits that don't mean anything at this point. And then like sometimes, I mean, we get people in their 50s who come because of the health insurance, and they don't care what they're getting paid, they need the free health insurance. So I mean, that's the sort of stuff that really, it's just having the data someplace where the discussion can start.
I, and I think at the end of the day, this is about the fact that we're paying attention and that we're doing
Exactly.
things in general. You know, and some of it's gonna be data points, some of it's, here's what we're doing relative to this goal or this measurement item. It might not be a number.
It's a trend.
But you know, someone, and again, I start to think about it, if we're hitting these points, or if there's an area that we're not hitting, or yeah, we struggled with answering this one a little bit. It's, how do we get better? You know, again, what I think that man's question is. Area. Move on. We're not the lead, if you will, right? So there's this kind of take it with a grain of salt maybe approach, but I think it's a discussion with everybody and an ongoing thing. Because of how relevant it is, including housing, by the way. You'll notice other IBAs are adopting policies, and the adaptive reuse policy became put together yearly.
Yeah.
I think these are a good resource to have, especially now, thinking about growth. Upstate New York, along the 104 program, the 90 corridor change when Micron decided to locate. Yeah. The fact that we're kind of between Rochester, Syracuse, this I corridor thing comes around. There are already companies who are just, you know, hey, within 100-mile radius of that place is just fine, 200 miles, somewhere along upstate New York. Makes sense, we're poised and ready to react to those opportunities. Including the ability to provide workforce and housing for that workforce. It's a lot of the discussion, especially that's going on in Central New York. So I think.
Another area too that I thought was part of this, but I don't see it on this hard copy was the where in the county, the penetration.
Oh, that's
later.
Yeah, that's.
Focus there.
Oh, okay, sorry. So I might have just, when I read it, just, but I think that's a target that I would like to see in this performance of where are we, you know, in your efforts for the year, how to grow, you know, in that part of Eastern Wayne
Focus
County that
together.
doesn't have, yes.
Mhm. Why don't we go right into that?
I think that's in here.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
So, yeah, we kind of did, so like this report here in the fiscal officer section, you have got your bank balances with the chart. Along with the budget. Budget did decrease the net income overall, so we had, some expenses come out. And then the next one is the report that you've gotten in like the past 4 years. So
Yeah.
this, the performance measures is brand new. We, you know, we're reflecting back on those specific performance measures. This other one is just kind of an extra little snapshot that you guys have received. So we had 39 pilots last year, 3 new ones, 5 matured. The whole bunch of information along with this, we can go through or just touch on each one. Big picture wise, in exchange for 2.6 million in foregone property tax, sales tax, mortgage recording tax. There was a total of 118 million in salaries created or retained. So 2.6 to 118.
100 jobs.
Yep, so for created and retained jobs was about 2,300. The trend for the 10-year trend, on your next page. Along with a 3-year comparison of what kind of projects we've had for pilots. Like ag or retail or solar or manufacturing, percentage of the portfolio. Retained was about 1,700 jobs and created was 638. And then we dove into and looked at the pilot creation per company of the 39 pilots, and then put our like star pilots on top here. One thing I thought was interesting, and I don't know, I really liked it. So all of the pilots, 4 pilots that matured at the end of the year surpassed the retention and creation commitments. I thought that was kind of cool. There were 3 that fell a little low. They did provide explanation letters for the variance, which are also included in that. And then the maps you were looking at for Pam. So there's pilots, loans, grants, combination of loan and grant, or loan and pilot. So this kind of shows where we were across the county this past year. So this is all 2023. Next page, we started doing site visits over the past couple of years. So these are all the sites that we touched on, trying again to make sure we're getting around the county for 2023. And then the last map,
But Jamie, that's a great example of what we were just talking about. So this is you guys going out. So you did not visit these 4 areas in 20.
we might have visited them. I can't think of any on the top of my head, but it's our current customers. So like the retention portion. So if they have a loan, or if they have a pilot, or if they have a grant,
Yeah.
and we visited them, that would be on there. But we might have visited a customer, not even a customer, a business in Rose that we don't have a relationship with yet. That's not reflected here, but that's a great idea.
Or like business development. Cause it's kind of like, well, if we don't build clients there, you won't visit there, kind of thing. Not saying you're not visiting there. but-
Right, and I think, one thing, when you do take a look at this, like, we're not including any of the discussions or site visits that we did in public prison. Or when we're doing the business park study of going to industrial. This was very specific on the grants, loans and pilots, but maybe in future references, we'll also talk about other economic development activities.
Potential.
Yep, so I think that's a very good point. Yep. So, but if you make a good point, I would say Savannah would be the one you'd have to find a little bit more of a focus on, because I can identify things that we did in Butler Rose.
We do use it, we talk about the same thing that you're thinking.
Yeah.
Oh, especially when you look at the map. We find ways to engage in Savannah.
Well, especially with, as you pointed out, with the Micron, because they're the closest ones.
We had $39 million.
No, you turn that into a park.
No, not yet. Oh, sorry. Any other questions on, this is another one of those, there's a ton of data in here, and again, holiday weekend. If you have questions, after spending more time reviewing any of the recommendations or anything you do. It's an evolution of time, like process, it's a snapshot of time. But again, using this as the basis of tracking things.
I think it's great.
I really,
Yeah,
I like the details.
It
I
gives some good talking points and really gives us, I like some other points you need to really like. I like it.
Good.
I know it's work, but it's like, I think it's.
No, we do a lot of it, and it's right, we're putting a lot of this together for the kind of the Paris report.
Right, so if you're doing it, it's good for us to look at it. It's great.
Making it digestible and, planner, they can maps, things like that, they can find things, go ahead.
As a board member, I would rather spend time focusing on this kind of thing and, futuristic and where you see your efforts going forward. you know, so kind of taking our feedback today of actually the ones that are appropriate, putting targets, but also, as Kay said, which ones are the most important to you? You know, is everything on here? We had previously asked for it, or did, you know, like, is there anything that you think should be on here that isn't on here? That kind of thing. You don't have to answer that now, but as we perfect this process.
Do we do anything like once the pilot expires? Like, do we still have communication with them? Or kind of where does that process look like?
So we do follow up, immediately right after, but they know, like, they know 2 years in advance, or they know about 2 years in advance. But we will visit them 2 years prior to them expiring. A couple of them are happening in Clyde this year, so we're gonna visit them in like 2 weeks. So we let them know, this is how much to budget for, this is what's going to happen, you're going to start getting tax bills at this point. We reach out to the town and the assessor, make sure that they're aware when it gets switched over. We make sure that they know how to update their budgets, same thing with the county or the village and the schools and the library and stuff like that. And then at the end of the year, when they expire, is the last time that they have to legally report their numbers to us. So that's the one section in there, for that. But after that, we don't follow up with them because there's not a requirement for them to provide that information.
Just thinking there might be value there if they have an expansion or something they're thinking about, maybe a good point just to keep in touch at some point. You have to let them, you know, remind them that we're still here.
Yeah, I do know one, that is expiring and is interested in expansion, so that is a conversation we're gonna have, with them. But I was asked, I did a presentation for the county-wide assessors, like a couple months ago. And they're like, does every pilot, you know, stay, or every customer of the pilot program, do they just leave afterwards? And I was like, I only know of one pilot since I've been here that the company closed after the pilot agreement, and that wasn't in any relation to business. It was a personal situation, but everybody else, like reading newspapers, we kind of know the companies. But no, I think it's working great for the community, for the businesses and our local economy. And I think that, yeah, maybe in a couple of years after they expire, maybe.
Just might be a good source of.
I just drawing on what you said in your discussion about assessment, that's one thing all of these companies are facing when they come up with these pilot agreements is some weighted assessment.
Yeah.
So assisting them with dealing with that on a town level, I think Katie gave me some information to give to Bob Bechtel, which I don't know if it ever really. It helped him. I never followed up with him about that, but it was helpful that you had that relevant information
Sure.
to give him to do something with that assessment, because for some reason, when a piece of property is not on the tax rolls for a period of time, or if it's a not-for-profit, the assessment on it goes through the roof. Don't know why, ask the question, assessors can't answer it for me. But churches, schools, universities, they're assessed very high, but they're not taxed. So, when these come off, when they go off the tax rolls, their values for some reason in these towns, towns climb. And then when they come off the pilots.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is, and it's definitely a big problem.
We do freeze base values during the term of the pilot agreement.
Yeah, it's 10 years.
And that is something we've been working over the past couple of years, is really making that connection with town assessors. We have our phones ringing multiple times up throughout the week with town assessors being like, hey, let's walk through this. And so that we're all on the same page from like the very beginning, like Optimax or OptiPro, sorry. But yeah, we're all on the same page, the customer.
It's not a surprise.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I mean, so like, depending on the municipality, if they get a revaluation, it'd be nice if they go through that process prior to the first year's back on the books, because otherwise it really is a surprise. And, I mean, I know other municipalities, it's almost every other year at the longest, but, a lot of properties in the tax jurisdiction that I'm in doubled this year. So if you're a commercial property that's, it's getting on a narrow margin, and all of a sudden, you haven't been paying taxes for 10 years and you're back on, and you think you know what it's gonna be, and then you find out you're wrong. It's probably even a little more of a reawakening.
I think they can do it every 3 years. Is that correct? That's the state statute on
Doesn't matter.
revaluation, property.
Doesn't
value?
matter.
Oh, doesn't, there is no,
No, you got towns right now that are out there 6 years. that haven't done it.
no, but you can't do it more than every 3 years,
So,
right?
you can do as much as you want.
The
Wow, I
recommend,
thought
general
it was-
recommendations every 2 years. Yeah, but that's a ton of work,
Yeah.
and it's doesn't happen. No, this is very rarely, I'm not aware of this.
These places that have to hire an appraiser to go through the process, the assessor can't do it by themselves, so.
That's the best time of year. Assessment, or best time of the process, but I want to be mindful of getting over if we have here and then. I'm going. Did you have more?
Just one friendly reminder, so kind of billing wise, we always bill in September, which means they pay their bill, but it's proactive. So essentially, they're gonna have like the whole next year to like get ready to pay for that. So they're paying in September, then they don't have to pay until not the next January, the following January. So just keep that part in mind too, and plus they know that budget wise that we send them.
I don't mean to rush through the agenda, but I know, and you know.
10:30, I got.
Okay, that's so I would ask for an executive.
Do you wanna just give an update on Butler Prison of where we are, because we haven't met since we.
Let me
are
do the,
here.
I wanted to do this thing.
Okay, that's fine, I'm curious, okay.
Someone put us into executive session, I would appreciate that.
Vote to go into executive session. Second.
You pull up that spreadsheet for me. So,
Wait, the recording is stopped. I think we're still live with. With sharing with.
YouTube.
yes.
So
Okay.
I think you have to, yeah, see up on YouTube how it's.
Recording.